Hello, thank you for joining me here at Astro-Action, Astrology for Proactive Spirits. My name is Aidan, and I'm an astrologer with over 30 years of professional astrological counseling experience. If you feel that this video adds understanding to your life's direction, please take a second to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Climb on board the Astro-Action train where we delve deep into astrology while using the rigorous and clarifying language of philosophy. On January 20th, 2025, the Sun made its annual conjunction to Pluto in the sky. At that time, Pluto was making an ingress, an entry into the sign Aquarius, a realm of the zodiac in which it has not been for about 250 years. Think about it. You are part of a subset within the entire human history that get to experience this event, the thrills and challenges to grow and evolve in an Aquarian way. This is the one and only time in your life that you will undergo this transit lasting for 20 years. I hope that conveys some of the significance of this event, because those born, say, after this 20 years will never experience Pluto in Aquarius. You will only experience Pluto through maybe 4, 5, or 6 signs in a lifetime because its orbit is so large. So we are part of the group of humans that get to take on this task, this transformative evolutionary task. Now, throughout 2023 and 2024, Pluto appeared to retrograde, moving forwards and backwards a few degrees into Aquarius, and it was bringing up these themes in a preliminary way, just dipping its toes in to Aquarius. But now Pluto has officially entered the sign and it is full steam ahead in 2025. Maybe you felt on the brink of something big while being plagued by frustrations and false starts. Well, now that uncertainty is over at the start of 2025. A totally new scene, a new atmosphere has arrived. Pluto will remain in Aquarius for about 20 years, so no matter your age group, you are looking at 2 decades of your lifetime of engaging and countering the transformative challenge of Pluto in Aquarius, becoming conscious of how this evolutionary impulse is motivating and inspiring you from the deepest level, pressuring you to grow and transform in the direction of a renewed Aquarian future. Those themes include unlocking human potential, electrifying your social networks, unleashing your true individuality, new freedoms like those from new technology, allowing you to innovate and express your brilliance. All through that week of January 20th, 2025, as the Sun conjuncted Pluto in Aquarius, it brought the light of awareness, willpower, strength to Pluto in Aquarius, Sun, initiating this new era, because our ego consciousness can grasp this new chapter with more courage going forward into the future. We're able to see with more clarity where we are going. It is an infusion of the deeper Pluto power into our waking consciousness. A realignment of the polarities of life and death, aligning yourself with your deepest core reality. Pluto themes include existential survival, regeneration, and procreation. The image of a couple who consciously decide to have an Aquarian child, to get pregnant. That's a good image for this start of this cycle. Where are you deciding to consciously create something for the future out of the depths of your soul? Now we're going to get into defining Pluto. Pressure and intensity. It once occurred to me that Pluto and Scorpio represent intensity, the energy of intensity throughout the universe. Like a powerful vortex, it has a spiraling quality that evolves us mere mortals from lower to higher levels. And wherever you have this feeling of intensity through emotion, passion, drive, desire, even fear, you have the Pluto archetype. So the intensity of Pluto reveals a vertical path, ultimately sweeping us upwards in the direction of evolution and regeneration. According to Dane Rudyard, the great humanist astrologer, Pluto is where the individual feels the most pressure from society to grow and transform. Always the Pluto transit is pressing, nudging you, as if something is emerging from the dark depths, demanding its role in your life. This deeper part of ourselves is demanding not just acknowledgement, but to exist on this plane with you. Just like the Grimm's fairy tale of the frog and the princess. The frog represented the creature from the abyss that emerged and made certain demands to be present with the princess throughout all of her daily activities, to eat with her at the dinner table, to sleep in her bed, etc., etc. This story revealed the interplay of the conscious ego with the deeper soul of the unconscious. Psyche means soul in Greek, and Pluto points to the deepest level of the psyche. This is the idea in psychology that we all have a place deep within that is repressed, hidden from the light of day, an aspect of ourselves that is not convenient to be expressed in certain circumstances. A very private, personal, secret part of us that has to be kept down. As when our cards are held close to our chest and we activate our poker face. At times, when something is happening around us and we kind of grumble and push it down, just to keep the peace, to maintain the harmony around us and not be disruptive. This is because what we're thinking and feeling is too profound, deep, sensitive. So this psychic energy gets backed up until one day it has to be released. We are not aware of it all the time because it is operating at such a deep level, yet from time to time it makes itself known, and boy, does it. As in the stories of Pluto, Hades, and Greek mythology, when Hades occasionally emerged from the underworld to wreak havoc. And this process is natural because we have to get on with the day and interact with people and circumstances while we are sequestering various thoughts, emotions, ideas, and reactions down into some deep part of our core, swallowing a lot of things, in other words. And it's a process, an archetypal process. It is your natal Pluto, the deep, passionate part of ourselves that has to be repressed and released. So you can't go around blowing things up and transforming things constantly. Someone with a strong Pluto in their chart struggles with that, a feeling of continually being tempted to blow things up or blow minds or rattle people. That's that eruptive quality again. It's almost like Pluto has much to do with like earthquakes. We think of it as the ruler of Scorpio, a water sign, but the story or narrative of Pluto, its path, has to do with a relationship to the earth plane, the Taurus-Scorpio polarity, where it has to create balance. And Pluto does this by erupting into the scene with great catharsis and dramatic transformations. Never notice when a rare, dramatic, intense outburst happens and we all have a few tears, the air is cleared somehow? There's real emotional quality to it. It erupts through the ground and stakes its ground. It stakes its claim to truth. It says, this is my truth, this is who I am, how I truly feel. This is Pluto's transformative nature. I think it's very interesting, although Scorpio is a water sign. The ground symbolizes earthly reality being shaken and transformed. The power of the unconscious to change everything. Now, in a Pluto traveling through Aquarius, the Pluto energy erupts and it's making its claim to liberation, true individuality, and genius. Your genius. Pluto has to do with survival and procreation. As representing survival, it's the very root level and drive for life, to continue life. Of course, procreation, it rules Scorpio, which rules sexuality. So the power of regeneration, like right down to our DNA, in one sense, it is our DNA. The drive to continue on to exist forever. It takes a lot of intensity for that. Soon I will be revealing a new philosophical system of astrology, philosophical astrology. And in this system, I have a new terms to clarify and further illuminate astro-lingo. The aim is to convey traditional ideas with more rigorous philosophical clarity using specific abstract language. For example, Pluto and Scorpio represent the one and only fixed water sign, right? If you know the traditional language. I translate that as the substantial power of unity. Substantial for fixed, and unity for water. Unity as a universal principle that refers to the mysterious level of reality which unifies all of us. This is shown in our desire for procreation and that which will unify all of us in the end, death. As you all know, Scorpio and Pluto rules sex and death and taxes. So remember here that Pluto transit can be very intense and unifying. It has a merging effect and it's deeply spiritual. The bottom line, our desire for more, to evolve, to survive and stay alive, to pass on our genes. Truly an existential archetype. It unifies yourself with others, as in your family tree, but it also unifies yourself with yourself, your soul, your deepest desire with your conscious ego. And this is really at play through the period of January 20th, 2025 and on, because the sun, which is the conscious ego, just united with it to create this new cycle. Now, defining Aquarius. With Aquarius, we can say that it is the one and only fixed air sign. So, in this new system, it will be the substantial power of thought. Thought being the other essential principle in the universe, one of four. Fixed as in firmly established beliefs, thought patterns, ideologies that support various communities, organizations, and connect friends and groups. It has to do with the ideals of freedom of thought, innovation, technology, the feeling that tomorrow is much more important than today. An important way to remember Aquarius is that it is the sign of democracy and the common man, whereas as its polar opposite is Leo, the sign of kings and monarchy. It's important to remember that the last time Pluto transited through Aquarius, bringing its transformative effects into the sign of democracy and the common man, was right around the time of the American Revolution and the French Revolution, which totally transformed the social landscape on the planet. Now, as Pluto, this very intense transformative drive, pressure from the universe to change or die, moves into this sign, the sign of humanity, it aims to transform these larger groups of humanity as well as their codes, fixed ideologies, and principles to which they have long been committed to. Aquarius itself is the sign of revolution, showing through its contradictory nature the need for rigid, lifeless ideals to be reformed in a timely yet often violent way. And like a snake shedding its skin, the time has come, my friends. But for what? Well, we shall see. Aquarius activates the theme of the individual as well, through helping him to find and express his true nature, thereby not getting swallowed up by the group. And yet it is only through his unique being that he is able to truly contribute to the group or community. So there is a clarifying theme to Aquarius, like clear waters of transformation. Remember, Aquarius is the water bearer, and the esoteric line for Aquarius is water of life am I, poured forth for thirsty men. Though he's pouring water, it's an air sign, so it's the waters of consciousness, okay? But this suggests the process where you are initiated into the group only after a certain level of personal growth. It's the 11th sign, the penultimate sign in the zodiac. Just remember, there's always this play between the individual and the group, and of course you also see this in the Leo Aquarius polarity, right? The wavy lines in the symbol for Aquarius, see, that I have in this glyph up in the corner, also represent the parallel movement between the individual and the group, but never touching. They're remaining independent, aren't they? Okay. Aquarius has been called a mental no man's land, so it's sort of hard to know exactly what is going on in there given all the eccentricity and unpredictability of Aquarius. This zone of the zodiac will be experiencing the pressure to transform and renew itself as if humanity has, for a long time, been on the back burner. Perhaps since the mid-1960s, when the Uranus conjunction to Pluto occurred. Okay? In the mid-1960s, we had a great unleashing of human potential. You can see the civil rights movement and the conflicts around the Vietnam War. We're going to come back to this topic, but that theme of the sort of human potential bursting onto the scene has sort of waned until now. In 2025, we're going to have a resurgence of those themes. And we all know that the 1960s were a time of great upheaval and cultural revolution. But we're going to take a look at the recent past as far as what's happened in the sign Aquarius. In the mid-1990s, Uranus moved through Aquarius. The ruler of Aquarius moved through its home sign along with Neptune, kind of bringing up the rear, and Neptune entered Aquarius, and it was in Aquarius all the way until 2012. Okay? And I consider this to be a time of great experimentation within the human archetype. What can a human be? Seemed to be the question. Through the influence of art, spirituality, and technology, which we had the internet coming up more and more, even the beginnings of social media. There was very notable movements in fashion, music, film. You had tattoos, piercing, extreme trends, sort of a caricature or illusory expression of my individuality, right? Remember, Neptune creates fogs and illusions. It's kind of a mess. And speaking of New Age delusions, remember 2012 in the Mayan calendar? Whatever happened with that? Anyway, so as Neptune and Uranus transited through Aquarius, we saw all this artistic experimentation, idealized, rambunctious, chaotic start to the internet, a variety of spiritual explorations in New Age communities, and this juiced up a lot of people. But now we're going to encounter a period where we begin to focus and think about humanity itself in a more existential way or essential way. What is the future, the role, the purpose, the essence of humanity? Back through the mid-1990s to 2012, it was kind of hard to tell with all that sort of chaos going on. And, a lot of those things from the early internet have really fallen by the wayside. MySpace, just websites. I mean, who really visits websites anymore? Everybody and their brother, built a website. Even the sale of laptops really declined a lot once the phones took over everything, right? So there was a lot of trial and error, a lot of Neptunian visions and utopian dreams about the future that, as Neptune would play out, didn't pan out. Okay, so I also want to point out that as Pluto has been moving towards Aquarius and even towards the sign Pisces, which when it gets there in 20 years from now, it will not have been there, say, 250 years, right? So there's a crisis as Pluto is moving towards a sign that it hasn't been in. There's a crisis. So we've been in a crisis concerning humanity already, right? I think that's pretty fair to say, how humans dominate and control the planet itself and our relationship to it crisis on many different levels there. Still continuing crises within various groups, right? Religious or political groups. That's Aquarius. But also the marginalized, right? And that's, I'm already looking ahead at Pluto in its relationship to Pisces, because the marginalized are going to be the refugees and anything that dealing with the migrant crises around the world, and the homelessness crisis, right? Mental health crisis. So as Pluto's coming in towards those signs, we have these crises with both of these signs, okay? And of course, that's been really amped up a lot as Neptune has been in Pisces for the past 12 years, since 2012, right? It's in its own sign, really ramping up Neptune themes, but we're going to have a separate video for that concerning end stage Neptune, okay? But Pluto and Neptune have both been really bringing about these big universal crises and themes. And of course, with homeless crisis, that's also housing crisis, right? In terms of the very frightening things that have been going on in the housing market. There's the price of real estate and homes, and where it's sort of throwing humanity under the bus, so to speak, as far as what the big investment firms have been doing as far as buying up all the properties and all the single family homes, and prices going through the roof and all that. So it's just really, like I said, the neglect and crisis of humanity have been the theme. So now this transit of Pluto through Aquarius will also manifest as threats to humanity as it's traveling through Aquarius. And these are the things that are getting us to contemplate and meditate what the essence of humanity is, the purpose of humanity. I've run down 8 different threats for you. That these are the challenges that force us to change or die. 1, the threats coming from long-established, new, and well-organized groups that collide and come into conflict with each other. Religious, ideological, I would say also economical, long-buried issues that emerge and explode under the surface, which we already seen in recent years because, Pluto dipping its toe into Aquarius. We already had the Gaza and Israeli conflict starting, okay? And as recently as last week, the story emerged that Iran has reached levels of enriched uranium that are becoming quite a concern because they're able to create nuclear weapons. So World War III as a possibility ramping up. Okay, a return to Cold War atmosphere, which connects to that 1960s theme I mentioned. Okay, just random violent outbursts, mayhem, gangs. The cartels are now designated as terrorist organizations by Donald Trump. Okay, interesting to see how that's going to play out. Remember, Aquarius rules groups and organizations of humans. So the erratic, unpredictable nature of Aquarius, this zone of the zodiac, could carelessly unleash Pluto power and destruction because Pluto doesn't give an F. Just power conflicts generally as Pluto shows up in the world as enforcement of power and the attendant backlash. So both parties are channeling the Pluto archetype, like what's happened in the COVID crisis. Okay. Just all kinds of various political movements, populist movements. Trump's second presidency, sort of like Luddite movements where people are trying to move away from technology, no cell phone zones at various events. As we're trying to get back to the softer, more human, spiritual side of Aquarius, okay, which does sound like the 1960s again, right? There's going to be a lot of that type of mentality, that counteraction to the technology, a feeling that technology has overtaken our lives, like from books like The Coddling of the American Mind, the concern about what the social media and cell phones have done to the brains of young people. There's going to be this attendant drive to change all that, and some kind of backlash to transform that. And that's Pluto entering Aquarius. Aquarius is technology. Okay. We also have the drone and UAP mystery that could have some level of threat that we don't even know yet what it is. You know, that's a combination of the Aquarian high tech and the Plutonian highly secretive, you know, traveling through the dark night skies, hidden power, possible threat. We call it a mystery. Okay. We have to wait and see how that plays out. Of course, we have AI, which is a threat to humanity, a threat to human jobs and the value of humans in the marketplace. Okay, there was a recent billboard that went up that said humans are so 2023. This makes us ask, you know, what is the nature of human consciousness? Can it be awakened in a machine? Will humans be necessary? You know, there's already a serious throwing down of the gauntlet, you know, between humans and AI. You also have robotics. They're becoming so lifelike. There are some that even have synthetic muscles. There could be an encounter possibly with non-human intelligence, and that would be huge, of course, and a topic for another time. But this event would throw us back on ourselves to reflect on who and what we are as human beings, and even possibly the need to defend ourselves. Technology generally as a threat, the further fusion between technology and humans, you know, chips being implanted like Neuralink. Technology is Aquarius, and a deep Neuralink into our biology and merging with it would be Pluto themes. Redefining humans. Again, posing the question, what is the essence of a human being? Urging us to take a stand and defend that essence. Like what happened 250 years ago, as the American-French revolutions were based in the same basic questions. What kind of life and rights and freedoms are inherent to being a human being? Will we become or be replaced by robots? Will we become or be replaced by robotic slaves? If you want to see the real dark side of this, look up Yuval Harari, the futurist, who doesn't really feel that humans have much of a place in the future. We also have low fertility rates around the world. It's definitely a threat to humanity. It doesn't get any more threatening than that. In a sense, humanity itself has been neglected, and Pluto has arrived to challenge us and wake us up as a species. It's a species-level event. So, and the final note on this is oligarchy and monarchy. The Leo polarity comes into play. Leo, remember, was monarchy and kings, or oligarchy, let's just say, the few powerful people versus the mass of humanity. Okay, that is taken to be a general threat, and we see those themes already all over the world. Little quick water break. How to approach this transit on a spiritual level. As in the 1960s, the basic, epic, and historic theme will be the liberation of our transformation, the emancipation of our deepest desires. Pluto pressuring us to transform towards a more liberated state, expressing our true selves, our true genius, our original thoughts and ideas that have taken a long time to arrive at through our life experiences, through our own personal knowledge beyond the accepted status quo. Now, the temptation will be to be reliant on the past and more established ideas rather than original innovative thinking. The more collective ideas, more groupthink, more collectively held ideas that seem unquestionable. Okay? Well, a lot of those things are going to be questioned. And this is why Aquarius gets the theme of revolution. And Pluto will add this erupting quality to it, where things will just change drastically. These are words that are already being used in terms of Trump taking office just a week ago. They're already using the words like drastic change, right? And that happened on the day of the Sun conjunct Pluto. Now, we're not getting the new moon until Wednesday, the 29th. about 10 days later, the new moon in Aquarius. So, and there's a lot of very interesting things in the news. So, but Pluto will be erupting and making a claim into your true individuality and your genius. Okay. Under Pluto in Aquarius, this 20-year transit, you'll notice when old groupthink interferes with your interactions, your relationships, your new social encounters, and see the need to shift to our common humanity, which will highlight, ironically, the individual. The individual also having been neglected, the true monad, okay, the spiritual monad, the true individual. And a note about this is that, astrology is the art science that reveals the true individual. This is something that has been so lacking, particularly through the woke era, which I connect to Neptune and Pisces, a giant ideological delusion, okay, which slots people into intersectionality of different categories of groups, completely obliterating the sense of the individual, okay? But we don't really have many systems in our society that support the idea of the individual, actually. I mean, in the United States, we do. We have an Aquarius moon in this country, so we are founded on that, and that's what we're trying to do now, I believe, is get back to that, but it's a very elusive thing. But astrology is the main tool that has been gifted to humanity to illuminate the individual in their unique, precise being, okay? That's why Aquarius is the sign of astrology, and we will be renewing and reinvigorating and transforming astrology in the next 20 years. Now, on a more practical level, we are faced with the challenge of renewing all of our social networks and our ability to serve humanity and utilize these networks. New technology, through new technology and humanitarian organizations, there's been a lot of disasters lately, which are putting a lot of emphasis on humanitarian efforts. So Pluto brings us down to the root level. Okay? A couple of events that have happened when Pluto crossed the United States ascendant for the first time in 250 years, first time ever, and that was 13 degrees Sagittarius. That was 9/11/2001, right as 9/11 happened, okay? And that leveled us all down in the United States, okay? We were brought down to our root level of our common humanity as Americans. And another example is when Saturn conjoined Pluto in the sky, which was in 2020, and that was the COVID crisis, okay? We were brought down to the same level again because of the common threat of the virus. Now, as Pluto enters Aquarius, there's definitely more of a note of optimism because Aquarius is a forward-looking sign, just like the attitude of our founding fathers. Okay, so that's why there's such resurgence of those themes of the original concepts of the United States. And it's interesting to see how that's going to play out as far as being the world leader or not. Okay, so we're going to reestablish these networks. I wouldn't be surprised at the end of this 20 years, I don't think others will be either, that there's the social networks that we have currently, Facebook, et cetera, are just, they're not even going to be there. There'll probably be a whole new networks going on, for example. But let's just think about your actual real world networks, okay? Some have become rusty and outmoded and suboptimal, dysfunctional, and they need to be overhauled. Like when you take the car to the garage and to get it checked out, for regular maintenance, you need to throw out some old fluids, put some new ones in, take out some broken parts, put in some new bits and pieces. This is what needs to happen to our social life, okay? Especially after the COVID crisis. We're still kind of recovering from that. And this is what we're doing in terms of our whole human civilization. Okay, we're kind of really rewiring things from a deep level, and we'll have to watch very closely to see what direction that's all going to go in. Okay. Okay, so just concluding this part, Pluto levels things. It brings our experience down to the root level. If we do not die to the truth of our one humanity, we may have more uncomfortable forms of ego death and even literally die through possible violence. Remember, I redefine Pluto as a substantial power of unity. What will unify us in the end, is death, and it takes us all to the same place. That's the vortex of Pluto. The best way to explain this is that we must die a little bit every day, right? A little bit of ego death. We all need to partition a little bit of our minds to go forward. Partition a little bit of our minds going forward for a little bit of letting go and releasing of so many fixed Aquarian thought patterns that are limiting us, that are calling for a personal revolution, an inner revolution. I subtitled this video, Why Gen X Will Rule, okay? Now, for a long time, I wanted to do a video called Gen X Will Save the World, okay? And I really feel that they are stepping up right now. These people in their sort of mid-40s to 60 or so, born connected to the events, astrological events of the mid-1960s, which I will get into. But around 2018 or so, I noticed, Jordan Peterson, Eric Weinstein, Brett Weinstein, Douglas Murray, Sam Harris, all these people coming up, even Joe Rogan, who was interviewing all these people, all these Gen X people really stepping up and showing their intellectual muscle and kind of using their penetrating minds to shed light on this chaotic world, right? That's why I said Gen X will save the world. Now, the astrological tie-in is that Uranus conjoined Pluto in 1966 in the sign Virgo, the sign of the youth, and it unleashed this Pluto energy. Uranus is a liberation, emancipation of deep hidden forces of Pluto, right? Alan Oken, a great astrologer, succinctly described the Uranus-Pluto conjunction as a tremendous elevation in consciousness, full stop, okay? Virgo is, of course, sign ruled by Mercury, highly technically skilled sign, analytical as it gets. And for that conjunction to happen there, which only happens every 111 years, it really relates to the coming onslaught of technology and technological brilliance. It's also right around the time we actually had the triumph of landing humans on the moon, okay, a great technological achievement. So these people are I'm just getting to the point that they're of a high intellect, okay? Pluto is kind of like an X-ray vision, and you have that high intellectual brilliance of Uranus to it. Put it in the sign of Virgo, This is where a lot of the intensity of the culture came from there through like punk rock or even heavy metal or various forms of heavy metal music. The whole sort of aesthetic of it being extreme, and intense in the arts and music came from that, astrologically speaking. Okay? So, in the 60s, Uranus, the planet of revolution and sudden awakening, aligned with Pluto, this powerful, deep, transformative drive, revolution and transformation uniting in the sign Virgo. It liberated the energies of transformation on the planet. See? That's why I say liberation of transformation, emancipation of our deepest desires. We had greatly increased freedoms from that time on and the fulfillment of desires, we had the growth of media of all forms, television, media, movies, music, fashion, all kinds of goods, products, technologies, computers, leading on the way to the internet, vastly increasing, expanding human potential and experience. Compare that to like the 1940s, 1950s, where the culture was much more sort of rigid and limited and repressed, right? The modern explosion, the modern world that we live in was, launched in the 1960s, really. As far as how it spread through the culture, let's just say. Now, the point is that we are re-entering such a time in 2025, like the SpaceX rocket re-entering with grace and precision, okay, and being grasped onto by whatever that thingamajig is that does that, right? That's interesting because Elon Musk is a Gen Xer, okay? Technological brilliance. He's one of the only people that are really regarded as a genius on the planet, right? Okay. So this energy is encoded into the birth charts of all these people born around the mid-1960s, the Generation X, okay? And I could go on and on about that, but I'll say that they, created this alternative underground scene, which kind of exploded overground in the 1990s. If you were born, say, after 1990, you really kind of maybe don't know what I'm talking about because everything was overground at that point. All these elements that were boiling in the underground of Gen X came overground with particularly the grunge music scene, stuff like that. And these people grew up under the threat of the Cold War, okay, the possible nuclear annihilation, the Cold War between Russia and the United States. And this played into the whole culture, the arts and music at the time, the feeling of being on the precipice of annihilation. That's a big part of the Uranus-Pluto conjunction, especially affecting and expressed through the youth, Virgo. If we go to 2010 or so, let's see, we already covered that part. So, at the intellectual dark web and all that stuff. Now, why do I say Gen X will rule? Because they're really moving into their heyday, because Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, okay? And as Uranus conjoined Pluto in the 1960s, we have the same type of energy that we're about to get now, because now Pluto is entering Aquarius, see, for 20 years. The unification of liberation and transformation occurred in the mid-1960s through Uranus-Pluto. Now it's going to happen again with Pluto-Aquarius, because Aquarius and Uranus are like synonymous, okay? So that energy hit in the mid-1960s and it's kind of dropped off. And like I said, we had this weird experimentation and expansion of Aquarius through the 90s. And now Pluto enters Aquarius. And Gen X people will just be in their element. They'll be in their heyday. It's like they're saying, hey, I know what this is. I know what this is about, this vibration, right? And we can all kind of experience that Generation X energy. It's taken all this time, like 40 years or so, for the Pluto energy to be reunited with the Uranian Aquarian energy, okay? And through that unification, we have the complete echoing and restatement of the themes of Generation X. It's like, oh, I know what this is. I know what this is all about. This is, in a sense, maybe they've been a little bit out of step for a few decades, right? But not any longer. It's like this is their time, okay? They will rule in the next 20 years, which only makes sense being in your 50s or so. They are the ones to take the mantle and sort of like move over baby boomers, right? So listen to your Gen X folks, the edgy, dark, somewhat cynical, but brilliant, precise, technically minded people. Ones whom you cannot pull the wool over their eyes, generally speaking. Okay. Now, on the socio-political level, we have the inauguration of President Trump. Okay, so as the sun conjoined Pluto on January 20th, of course, we had the inauguration of President Trump, and it's interesting how they did that inside wherever they had it exactly. I'm not sure, but because of the weather, they did it indoors, and it was in this building with beautiful, magnificent paintings of American history, and it was like this new vision of a place that people haven't really seen before. You know, I know people stand on different sides of the political spectrum here, but you can't deny that the optics were pretty amazing. You know, I believe it really established and regenerated the whole spirit of America. Spirit of reunifying America, of course, was there, and I mean, think about how many presidential inaugurations have had such powerful astrology happening on the same day. I mean, the sun conjunct Pluto in Aquarius. That hasn't happened for 250 years. It's the sign in which the American Revolution was commenced. So the transformation of the entire idea and ideals and principles of what a human being is, the idea of being endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights and freedoms, this has all been recharged and reset, rebooted, as the sun bringing consciousness and awareness to those themes. Another interesting example is what happened with TikTok and how so many people migrated over to this app called Red Note. And in doing so, they had a view of the way the Chinese live and the sense of there being a common humanity, and that they weren't as scary and as threatening as they'd been told. You know, that's a very Aquarian theme that came up in the news. I mean, the threat to the platform itself is a threat to a technology, to social media, which is Aquarius, right? That's Pluto threatening that. That's been showing up in a lot of interesting ways. You have the power Pluto struggle between Elon Musk, Sam Altman, you know, for Trump's support for the technology and the AI and all those conflicts going on there. If you're aware of all that, and also, of course, I'm doing this video on the 27th, and AI itself, technology, our highest form of technology, has come under this huge threat because this mysterious company out of China, DeepSeek, put out their AI, and it scored better at all kinds of tests and tasks and etc. And it pulled the rug out from under the entire AI industry. The stocks dropped considerably. There's kind of a panic in the stock market. So the AI companies in America have taken a hit from that. So that's very Pluto and Aquarius. And the thing is, they actually launched their platform on the 20th, right when the sun conjuncted Pluto in Aquarius. So many synchronicities. I can't even get into them all. Also, what happened in Gaza and Israel, how they just freed many hostages with the ceasefire. There's that underlying tone of, despite the centuries of religious conflict, you know, is there a common humanity underlying everything? That theme comes up. Trump mentions bringing back the Alien Enemies Law, which was passed in 1797, which looked up. I'm going to cut all this part out. Find a place to cut there. What is all this? I am almost to the end of this. Oh, I'm recording. Okay, I'm still recording. Okay. Finger goes up. We're going to start recording. Ready? 1, 2, 3. So we are getting a grasp of this burgeoning new reality of transforming and reconnecting our humanity in the face of imminent and totally new threats to what the essence of humanity is. So hopefully we can reconnect to our core reality, our core truth, as Pluto is re-energizing and resurging our humanity. In conclusion, Pluto for 20 years will ask, can you discover and express your true self, your true genius? There's a great song by Adrian Belew called Inner Revolution, and it says as follows. So welcome to the real world, full of pain and hurt. There's a million excuses, and you know what they're worth. You say you got your big problems like everybody else. You won't find any answers until you find yourself. Inner revolution, shake it up, baby. There's something in your life you don't like, you got the power to change it. You can't fix it with a drug, you can't kill it with a gun. Inner revolution, that's the way it's done.